Hi everyone, this is Jathu from Property Framework, and today I want to talk about a major regional center in Queensland that's emerging as a property hotspot. I'm talking about the city of Gladstone. So, Gladstone is located about 550 kilometers north of Brisbane and about 100 kilometers from Rockhampton. It is traditionally known as an industrial port city. Two of the world's largest alumina manufacturing sites are found in Gladstone. It also has the Gladstone port, which exports commodities like bauxite, alumina, aluminum, LNG, and cement. In terms of connectivity, Gladstone is well connected through the Bruce Highway to the other major regional centers and cities. It is Qantas and Virgin both fly into Gladstone, and the Gladstone Airport is connected to the other major cities and other regional centers as well. On top of that, there are passenger trains and freight trains that go through Gladstone. Okay. In terms of the hospitals, Gladstone does have a major public hospital, and there's also a private hospital called the Mater Public Hospital. It has two universities. Central Queensland University has two campuses in Gladstone, and it also has a TAFE. So you can see this city, which has about 60,000 people, does have all the infrastructure in place for people to live comfortably, and it also has all the necessary amenities to have a good lifestyle, right? So, just a bit of history about Gladstone. So, in the past, during the time 2012, 2013, this was a time when Gladstone was booming. And this was a time when there were a lot of LNG projects happening in Gladstone. Okay. And because of these LNG projects, there were a lot of people who flew into Gladstone to take up these jobs, and therefore investors were lured by the Gladstone property market, and a lot of them started buying properties in Gladstone because there were high rental rents at that time, and property prices were moving up really fast. So the boom was being led by investors. But what happened was that when the LNG projects came to an end, all the people in those projects, they flew out, and therefore the demand for property dropped. And what happened was the property prices between 2013 to 2017 or 2019, it was going down. So there you have it, a bit of history about Gladstone. It is known traditionally to be a bit reliant on that LNG mining sector, but that has changed, and that's what we're going to look into today. It has come out of that mining um, industry dependence. I wouldn't say it's totally come out of it. There's still that mining, which is the biggest contributor to the economy, but there is the evidence to show that they're just diversifying. There are other industries that are coming up. And that is what this video is about, to show you that Gladstone is doing really well economically, and it's going to be an area that's going to do well over the next few years. So let's get into more details about this property market. So let's start off with the economic profile of Gladstone. So it has a GRP of 5.9 billion, which is quite healthy, 27,958 jobs, and as we discussed earlier, 65,000 people living in that area. It also has quite a few visitors, so it's 566,000 average visitors to the region per annum. So it also does well from a tourism perspective. Let's just look at the jobs in Gladstone. So 4,200 jobs in manufacturing, 3,300 in construction, 2,600 retail, some 2,400 in the transport and logistics, education and training, and then there's healthcare and social assistance with 2,800 jobs. So this is giving me confidence that there are jobs in other industries, that it does have a diversified economy, and that economy is fairly healthy here. Now, this one is the most interesting part. Like, Gladstone is set to become a renewable energy hub, right? And over the next decade, there are plans to build a Gladstone renewable energy industrial precinct. And what that means for the Gladstone region is that there would be 7.8 billion in capital investment into that area, 11,000 new ongoing local jobs. So 11,000 jobs, that's huge. A lot of jobs going to be created over there. And that's what I meant when I said there are projects that are coming in that's going to be further diversify Gladstone. Okay, so let's go into a bit more detail about these projects. So there are already some projects that are already underway and started. So there is that Global Green Energy Manufacturing Center in Aldoga, and that's a $1 billion project, and that is essentially manufacturing electrolyzers that's used in the extraction of hydrogen. And then there's the Gladstone Energy and Ammonia project in Yarwun, which is a $1.6 billion project. We have the Central Queensland Green Hydrogen project again in Aldoga, that's 550 million. So there are already three renewable energy hydrogen projects or hydrogen related projects that have already started up, and there's a huge long list of other projects that are also in the pipeline that I haven't listed here that are going to come up over the next 10 years. Okay, and there are various solar farms that are coming up in Aldoga, Rots Bay, in Raglan, and that's 1.3 billion. We have that port of Gladstone, which I mentioned earlier. So that's going to go through a channel duplication. So that's 760 million being spent there, and that'll create a lot of construction jobs as well. And we have the Gladstone Fitzroy pipeline, which is a pipeline being constructed from Rockhampton to Gladstone. And that's again, that's going to create some construction jobs. So you can see there is evidence of infrastructure projects into that region. And that means more jobs are being already started in Gladstone. And that, of course, jobs means there needs to be more people which come into that area. And that's what is going to push that property market. Okay, so looking at the population movement, Gladstone actually recorded a surge in internal migration, so 278% increase between 21 and 22, and that's because of these projects that have started there, and then that is why more people are moving there to take up these jobs. Okay, so whenever an area has internal migration or when people are moving there, that's a good sign for the property market. Okay, let's look at the dwelling approvals, like the number of houses in Gladstone. You can see that during that COVID, there was a spike, but generally that is quite low. This is for the Gladstone LGA, and you can see the dwelling approvals is low, which means that the supply of new properties coming into that Gladstone region is also quite low. So there is demand for properties coming in through interstate migration, but we see here that supply of new properties coming into that market is fairly low, right? So let's move into the Gladstone property market now. So you can see the median price of most of these suburbs are under 500,000. So you have suburbs like Kincora, New Auckland, Clinton, all these suburbs quite close to the Gladstone CBD and around that 400 to 450 price point. So one of the very few areas in Australia with a significant population where you actually can find brick homes between 400 to 450,000. It's you can see that most of areas around Australia, they've brick homes. It's very hard to find brick homes under that 500,000 mark. So one of the very few areas where you can find this, so you can find really good quality homes in Gladstone, right? Let's look at how this property market has been performing. So you can see over the last 5 years, there's been some growth that's come through about 60% on average. And then over the last year, about 7 to 10% of growth coming through in the Gladstone property market. So the market is clearly on an upcycle, and property prices are moving up over here. Right now, a very interesting indicator. Now, I've taken the postcode 4680 and I'm looking at the vacancy rates here. So you can see around that 2017, vacancy rates spiked and they were as high as 12%. And then gradually you can see that vacancy tightening and tightening. And right now it's just under 1%. Right. So this is exactly what was happening in Perth. There was a spike and then vacancies were dropping, and we're seeing something similar happening in Gladstone. So if a boom can happen in Perth, There's no reason why it can't happen in Gladstone as well. It's already happening, but it's going to further continue looking at the data trends, and especially these vacancy rates, which is starting to drop lower and lower. Right, so further going into the Gladstone property market, the first one is the days on market. So you can see a steady decline. Days on market were around that 80 days, and now it's moving towards 50, 60 days. And when it hits that 40, 30, that's when it really becomes a major hotspot. So it's just heading in that direction. I can see the listings starting to drop. Listings are gradually dropping, and you can see it's going down. And a very interesting change here with the inventory. The housing inventory is steeply dropping here. It's becoming lower and lower. And just to give you an overview, what housing inventory means is that, for example, if there are 100 properties listed for sale in a suburb and there are no more properties added in, and let's say that in that suburb there are 10 houses that sell every month, that means the inventory is 10. That's 100 divided by 10, which is 10 months, right? So anything under 3 months is a really tight, hot market, right? So what you can see for Gladstone is it was starting off at 4 and it's starting to go towards 3 and then go under 3 now. So uh, it shows that things are really tightening up and heating in Gladstone. And this is the vacancy rates here, which is dropping towards, which is tightening further and dropping towards that 1%. So from the data, it looks like this market is really heating up, and there's going to be really strong growth coming through in the next few years. Um, and that this looks really promising. Okay, now I just want to share the growth profile of Gladstone. So this is between 1995 and 2024, so the 30 years. So you can see between 2002 and 2012 there was that boom and prices doubled and tripled in Gladstone, and this was when what I was explaining to you earlier. The LNG project started closing, and then there was a property price drip, and since 2019 the market has been recovering. And so you can see the property prices in 2024 are just reaching the peaks of the 2012 2013. So you can see how undervalued this area is. And we also have this concept called the reversion to the mean. That means all property markets will come back to their long-term average growth, and therefore, since this market has underperformed over the last 10 years, there's statistically there's very high chances of good performance over the next 10 to bring it back to its mean. So that means the growth in Gladstone does look really promising. So from this, it just gives me an idea that the Gladstone market has really recovered. It has come out of it, and it has started a new growth cycle. And for investors who are looking, for strong markets between that 400 to 500,000, Gladstone is a really promising market.